to touch my cup. You're my sugar. Oh, baby, it's so sweet when you stir it up. Oh, when I'm taking sips from your tasty lips, seems the honey there fairly drips. It's your confection, goodness knows. You're my honeysuckle rose, yeah.
Good morning, everybody, and let's say thanks to Miles Jensen. We're here at Crescendo, and he is our guitarist and band leader, as many of you know. So let's get some hearts going for our good friend Miles over here. Miles, thanks again for that beautiful tune. I'm your host, Marco Paulos, also known as the Bitcoin Musician, and welcome to MetaJAX. We'd like to thank you for joining us and the entire TokenSmart family. If you are not already there, I would recommend joining us in the TokenSmart Discord at discord.gg/NFT. And at the end of the show, you'll receive your POAP. Your NFT POAP is a proof of attendance protocol, and it's one that proves that you were here with us. You got to get one of these little cool things because each one of them are very unique and pretty cool in their own way. They also, by holding that in your crypto wallet, you'll also be rewarded a MetaJAX Silver NFT from our Crescendo Season 1 album dropping next weekend. Hey, next weekend, that's coming up pretty quick. So next weekend is also another event that we've got going on. We're going to be releasing the TGs. Have you guys heard about the TGs yet? I know we got a little preview into it a couple weeks ago, and even last week we talked about it. But we've got a lot of good things going on here in our world here, and we thank you very much for being here. thank you again, Miles Jensen. That really does feel like almost like being in love, I would say. It's wonderful morning. We got our good friend Easy in crypto. How you doing, Easy?
Doing good. Just always love to be here for these Saturday morning crescendos. Great way to start the weekend off right.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for being here, and thanks for covering last week. I was on an airplane and had no Wi-Fi to get on with you
You
guys.
know, I'm happy I could do it. That's about the only times I usually miss my shows is if I'm in the air as well. So
Yeah.
I totally understand.
It's just not strong enough just yet, but I bet one day we'll be able to have strong enough Wi-Fi to be doing some live streams.
I would hope so. I would think so. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see. Hopefully we get there.
right on. Well, hey everybody, guess what? We're going to be showing you here on your screen right now what our TGs look like, and you're going to see a sampling of the TGs. Our Jazzy PFP project. We're going to be talking about them. Easy and I are going to be talking about them, as well as with the artist himself, Mr. Tony Guerrero, at some point today. So stick around for that. But let's see what have you gotten to look into any more of this for yourself, Easy?
I know that they are actually an incredible value. So if you're able to cop the big bad boy TG, I would highly recommend it. Of course, we're not giving financial advice here or even emotional advice, but as a personal preference, I wish I could just grab one of those because they're basically dropping you a Jax a day for what is it, 5 years, 7? It's incredible. And 7 years, yeah, 7 years, Jax away. That alone, I think, is a pretty impressive value proposition.
Yeah.
But when you then look at the other things that are involved with that, with the access, if you go to the Jax Jazz events, just to be that level of a supporter in this project, I think would be it's a historic movement that we're working within here, bringing jazz to the metaverse through Jax Jazz. So that's just one of the TGs, those founders ones. So there's more so everybody gets a chance to sort of hop in and support at their comfort level. So I'm definitely excited to be able to pick up this upcoming drop.
Right, that's going to be great. And I believe in those founders tokens, there's only going to be 77. So we know we're playing with the number 7 here. So we got 77 of the very first ones will yield the 7 Jax tokens every week. So like you said, a Jax token every day for 7 years. It is quite a bit. And that begins February 14th. And that Jax token, so that's every day. And then after that, let's see, that's for buying the first founder at 0.77 ETH on the network, a Polygon network, and it's from the first 77 minutes. And then the next 777 TGs, which are going to be number 78 through 854, will also reward its TG holders with 1 Jax token every week. So that's at least 52 Jax tokens a year.
Yeah,
7 years. So, and we call those holders part of the Jam Circle. And then the remaining TG holders, numbers 855 through 7,777, will get 1 Jax token every 2 weeks for 7 years. So that definitely seems like a really cool thing. And I know that there's going to be a lot of other perks and privileged utilities, like you mentioned, everything from members-only spies, airdrops. There will be some backstage passes as well. Members-only events and meetups at the live jazz clubs, the conferences, the pop-ups and tours in real life, as well as in the metaverse. Monthly drops of TG comic strips, surprise drops of music stems from a TG band. And that's pretty cool. You can make your own TG arrangement with those stems. So
very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, the more that you talk about it in your smooth voice, the more I want to scrape together some more ETH and try and get one of these founders ones, because I know that, there's just so much here. To be able to do interesting composable things with the different stems, the comic drops, like there's so much beyond just, and also events that will be for these specific holders in the real, IRL in the Regaverse.
Right.
So there's so many different aspects that go into these TGs that it's very exciting. And the artistic man himself, Tony Guerrero, I see is jumping in and joining us, which is super cool.
Shall we say hello to our good friend Tony? Hey, good to see you, Tony. Looking good.
Really good to see you.
Just sent a note to Tim, like, Marco, I'm hearing you, but I'm not hearing you easy. So I'm not sure why.
Check your settings on it. I can hear him on my end at least. I'm not sure.
And actually, Marco, occasionally you're breaking up. So
could be.
I heard that when I was watching online also. So just want to let you know. I don't know if there's something going on besides just.
Tim says there might be something
out in those interwebs.
Yeah,
doesn't always work perfectly, but we struggle. We take the punches, we roll with it, and we keep going, and we have fun. So hopefully, maybe I'll try and see if I can hop out and rejoin, and maybe. Okay, let's see how he fares. The same. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna try it too. I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah, I hear you nice, Tony. You sound very clear for me, and nothing. I got no disruption on my end, at least. So, as long as you can hear me, we just keep on talking.
I can. Marco, you're kind of the only thing I can hear. So.
Yeah. Well, all right.
I'll try another option also here.
All right. I think I made it back in.
I got him, but I am hearing some breakup, so we may have to get around that, but we could probably go on.
No.
Yeah.
It is true. But I will say your video.
Well, great to see you.
From everybody, it comes and goes.
Yeah. Well, how about we chat about the TGs? Let us know. We'll let the technology bugs figure themselves out and make the most of the time that we do have. Right. And tell us a little bit about this and what inspired. I know that you. I've remembered seeing that you animate and you draw and such. And this is another side of your artistic side. And I'd like to know, how far back does this go? I mean, is this something from childhood? Is it where does it come from for you?
Yeah, it definitely from childhood. In fact, before I discovered music, it was all drawing for me. I wanted to be a cartoonist, and I idolized guys like Charles Schulz. And somewhere I have my 5th grade book report was all about Charles Schulz, and you can. So that's since I was a little kid. That's what I loved to do. And once I discovered music, that sort of faded in the background, and over the years, it would creep back every now and then. Like I had a couple of cartoons published in the 90s and, little things like that. But for the most part, I wasn't drawing much. Just doodle. I'm a constant doodler, But it's just been about a year ago, I just sort of rediscovered a love for it and kind of dove back in. It was something that never really left me. It was just the practice of doing it all the time wasn't there for me. So
right on.
It's so fascinating to be able to see you have this other art form be able to be shared in this JAX Jazz metaverse community. Was there some kind of, you said about a year ago, maybe you started getting a little more into it. Was there anything in this kind of new movement that maybe helped percolate that startup, or was it just kind of more downtime because of the lockdowns and just kind of the social difference?
It was it's a good question, because I do try in my life, and I can't say I've not been guilty of this or that I've been successful in doing this, but I do try in my life to not do things because I'm going after the money or a fad or whatever it is, and that's hard to do in music, for one, because you want to make a living and you kind of got to go where the money is. But as the part of me that's an artist, I just want to create stuff that I love and hope that other people love it. And so this definitely started more out of the lockdown and just sort of things going on in my life and just needing an escape that wasn't my job. And even though my job is also my hobby, like I can work all day on a gig and then come home and want to be in my studio making music. So it's never that it's so much a job, but just to have something different. And I'll put it this way, it's just part of the whole creative nature that I have kind of done a lot of studying on over the years about how we all are. I believe everybody is creative, even people who are not artists or musicians, that everybody has a creative tendency in some way. And part of that realization for me goes back to sometime in the mid 90s. And I had a really solid recording and touring career for a while, and then died. Market I was in died. And through a couple of years of not working much and not doing much creative, and being kind of down about it. And I remember, this is going to sound so stupid, but I bought some furniture at IKEA, and I had it home, and I found myself really content just building it, putting it together. And it just sort of like trickled into my head that for me it isn't always just about music. It's just about needing to create, needing to see something come from nothing. And IKEA furniture isn't exactly that, but it was that thought process of like, I'm just happy doing something that is going to create something, and it just snowballed from there. And so I as much as I love music and it's my number one thing, there are times when I want to put it aside and do something non-musical and yet still creative. And so that was a part of rediscovering how much I loved drawing. And the truth is, now we have ways to share it that are different than before. I mean, I have things I've drawn all over the house, but unless somebody comes over and looks at them, nobody's going to see them. So social media and now this whole world, it's just another way to share creative output.
Yeah, I completely relate to that as well. Just the needing to create. It doesn't matter whether it is music or putting together an IKEA thing. I mean, same thing when we remodeled our bathroom. The only thing we could find that would fit in this one little corner was an IKEA thing that we got. And it's perfect. But putting it together and the satisfaction of redoing that whole bathroom, like just making it. And now it's just nice. And heck, one of the things that I even got into over the lockdown and everything was carving wood and stuff, just kind of making art out of wood.
Right.
And I completely relate to just needing that sense of creativity outside of music as well. Because I very much love being in here making things as well. But that's, I think many artists have that, because I've noticed also many other musicians out there doing the same thing, like exploring things, and we don't realize it until either we run into them or we see that and we get to explore. And I heard that's how Tim discovered your TGs. He saw one of your sketches or something, and I think just Tim being the genius that he is, he's just like, I got an idea with this. Hey, Tony, let's do more with this art.
Well, and that was another answer to your question, is that no, I didn't see the NFT market and think anything, because it took somebody like Tim to go, hey, let me connect these dots. So
yeah. And that's good. So that's Tim brought you into this, and was that kind of like the beginning of the trying to learn a little bit more about the NFTs and such?
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it, because I definitely am still trying to learn more about it. I'm both musicians, so maybe you know this too. Part of the learning process has always been, like, say something about music theory, is I'll try to understand it, wrap my head around it. It's like, it's just not there. And then all of a sudden, just can be like in the middle of a tune, or just at some point, all of a sudden it's like, wait, now I get it. And suddenly this whole world opens up.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just on the precipice of the now I get it part.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
and understand it more and more.
It does. It takes, months, really.
Yeah.
And depending on what kind of subject in the Web3 space and kind of how far you go into it, it can be years even before like something clicks within, some crazy DeFi stuff. But it definitely takes a good long while of just kind of every day or every couple days kind of checking in and massaging the words and new ideas in your brain. And then, yes, it just all kind of clicks.
Tim is constantly sending like, oh, we should do this. You should do this. And today I answered him with, just tell me what to do, Obi-Wan.
This is the way.
Yeah.
This is the way.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll tell you, like, I very much love the style of art you have chosen. I don't know if you chose it for this or just if this is just in general the art that you do. And I know you mentioned Charles Schultz and everything, but that era of art is, me personally, one of my favorites. I just love it. And so seeing these TGs that are coming out, it's pretty exciting, especially knowing that, Tim and the team, the whole team back there is working hard on trying to bring a good utility to this that would also support you as an artist and also the projects that they're trying to do in the JAX world. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that era is, to me, when jazz and illustration really coalesced together, was that in the 1950s, really in two ways. Both there was a huge revolution in animation, where a lot of Disney and Hanna-Barbera and all these major Universal animation, like all these animators
Mm-hmm.
left and started this new company called UPA. And if you look up UPA cartoons from that era, they're very like of the era. They really define the look of that era for anybody who's into the whole mid-century modern vibe. And a lot of it just came out of those animators and that animation studio. And then you see it in illustration too, and it carried over into so many classic jazz album covers where they're illustrated, and it's just this gorgeous, iconic looking and still very fresh and relevant. There's something about that style that has never really it's dated in a good way. It never really feels dated. It's still very fresh and
Right.
and you can look around. There's a lot of artists who are still pursuing that style. It's just a very inspirational style. And it wasn't like that for me always. Like I mentioned Charles Schultz, for me it was always comic strips, not comic books, but like newspaper comics. And it was the really simple, clean line ones that I loved, like Peanuts and Drabble and later Foxtrot, and of course I appreciate the amazing ones like Calvin and Hobbes and these beautifully drawn things, but I can't do that. So I really gravitated towards the ones that were clean lines. And now that I'm older and I've got all this other life experience, and so much of it is tied into the music of that era, I'm just so drawn to this style of illustration now too. So
Yeah.
It's a really cool kind of marriage between the style of this kind of comic style and jazz, because in my head, if I see the kind of style, I'm instantly already kind of thinking jazzy. It's an interesting part of the culture from that epic in history.
Yeah.
So for me, it was kind of a no that I would end up going as an illustrator. So
yeah, I got a question here. So one of the things that kind of like I've been stuck in my mind with the whole NFTs is the overwhelming amount of work it takes to create 7,777 different things, and I'm sure that there's some way to engineer this. Can you give a little peek into how you went into creating the traits and the I know that it's probably something that Tim told you we had to do, but how did you figure out that solution? What was your solution?
Well, it wasn't me. I mean, it was basically Tim just mentioning, create a number of faces, number of instruments, a number of, clothes, all of that. It's really Miss Potato Head. It's just that idea of, but how it happens in the box, I don't know. That's not me, but I know that he's had the guys program that in order to make that happen. And I'll tell you, it's fascinating for me, especially watching that little animation go by, because in a lot of ways, I mean, I drew everything that's there, but I'm seeing characters that only exist, right? Like I didn't draw that character exactly that way,
Super interesting.
Yeah, so it's really fascinating to watch. It really it really creates a whole world. It's I don't know how to put it. I thought of this the other day, but it's populating this whole imaginary world.
Yeah.
That I started with my little Adam and Eve, and now there's all this, So
it's really cool. I mean, I can only imagine, actually being the artist, and you've never seen your own the bits and pieces, but then we've got this, randomizing tool behind it in the smart contract that will kind of plug in and be like, okay, well, it's this face, but it's that hat and this coat and that instrument. They're all of them in different and unique. But you know, from the artist standpoint, just doing all the assets and then coming in and looking what is being created through the smart contract must be quite an experience as well.
Yeah, it's very fun, and I'm trying not to get a god complex for this whole universe I've created.
That's funny. That's awesome. I think that's really cool. And so in these traits that you chose, like these traits are, I mean, I love the variety of things in there. And can you tell us a little bit about the traits that you are? How many of them, like, you know, were you coming up with? How many of them inspired? How many kind of just where did they all start coming from?
Well, you know, surprisingly, the instrument one was the most challenging because, as we know, there's hundreds of instruments to choose from. But these traits all have to work together because if they're going to appear random, and as we were doing it, we were finding some traits wouldn't work with, you know, like this face wouldn't work with this instrument or whatever. And so trying to get all of every possible component to work with every other possible component, the most limiting part ended up being the instruments, because the instruments involve hands, mouth, and then blocking part of the body. And if you look at the characters, like I very intentionally, I don't shade in a lot of the parts. A lot of them are just transparent, and it's just, again, just part of that look that I've adapted. But when you have that bleed through, suddenly there were issues with making all those work together. So, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I could come up with, you know, 200 different instrument variations, but really we couldn't, you know, that in order to make them all work. So those are, and Tim suggested a couple I never would have thought of. Most specifically, the theremin wouldn't have been on my radar.
And I heard that's going to be a rare one.
Right, in terms of rarity, that's about as rare as they can get. So so yeah, for me it was mostly about that, like how to create these in a way that the whichever face you use is going to still line up with the saxophone and yet still work for the trumpet player and not get in the way of being a drummer or whatever it is, you know.
Right.
So
it's a lot goes into these types of projects. If you know, probably if you came in, you know, just as a general, you know, new NFT collector or something, you would have no idea how much goes on behind the scenes to create one of these, you know, PFP projects where you've got all these different assets. And it's not just that they appear, that yes, that they're in a correct position, that it's not, you know, the mouthpiece of the saxophone isn't, you know, sticking into the top of the head, or, you know, the guitar is like way outside the bounds of the arms, or so it's a lot, huge undertaking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was fascinating to do. And back to your earlier question, no, I wouldn't have thought to do any of this. So.
Well, you're doing it.
You're in the world now, and also I know that I've heard that there's going to be some drops of comic strips as well in this project. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
That's what Obi-Wan tells me. Yeah, actually, you know, we talked a little bit about that, and you know, it's not something I could do on a daily or weekly basis. Like I marvel at those artists that I admire that came up with a strip every day or still do that, you know, every day and keep a storyline or just little gags running. So I've never had that in me, but you know, I do still play around with little comics and draw them and you know, just show them to friends here and there. So I'm kind of excited with the idea of doing that and having an audience. Although it's the daunting part to me is less the drawing than just making sure the content's good, because you know, it's nothing sadder than an unfunny comic, right? So that's we're looking at that, and then the music side, the stems he was talking about. You know, I'm sitting here in my studio, so I get to create a lot of music here, and there's a lot of ways to create music by yourself that sounds like you created it with a lot of people, and then obviously I do music with other musicians and we record those. So we're looking at exploring how to develop some audio, some stems that people can take and remix and have their own hands on. So
Yeah.
again, I'm not
Really cool.
claim it to explain how any of that will work, but
But it'll live.
But it's incredible to have all these layers.
Right.
And as we were speaking to earlier about these different TG's tokens and the founders ones that were dropped that are only 77, and then the next level that's the 777, and these different utilities and value they have is really, really, I'm super excited about all this. I think that bringing jazz into this whole space, the metaverse and Web3 is hugely important. But not only to bring in jazz, to bring in the culture, the people that are, creating, that have been creating for, some up to 30 years or more, to have the connection between the community, between the listeners and the fans and the artists and their different styles. It's really special. And it's feeling like this is, lining up to really, hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I noticed that when we were in NFT NYC, that was just talking to people, everyone really was excited and almost like in a way surprised, like, oh, I didn't think about that. That's a great thing and a great avenue. And there's just a lot of excitement in general whenever it would be brought up over that whole weekend. And so I'm very optimistic about the way that if we can spread jazz and the culture and music and the samples and anything else that gets out there. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for many musicians and offer a new avenue that many of us haven't explored yet.
Yeah. And for fans too, because, before Jax Jazz, I wasn't listening to much jazz music. It had been, there was just a big gap kind of in me appreciating jazz. Although, even in high school and stuff, I played in jazz bands. It was, a big part of my life. And just through, kind of whatever, growing up and adulthood and the job and, these things, it sort of, it left a hole in my life and in my spirit. So to have this reinfusion of jazz just on a regular basis in my life, it's such a blessing.
Well, one thing I've noticed being a performer all these years and being in, like working in jazz clubs is that there's multiple types of audience members. There are those that are there because they know the music. There are those who are there because they got dragged there for whatever reason, but I it's not at all uncommon to meet somebody where basically what they're telling you is, I had no idea I liked this music. And a lot of people don't think to go see it live or to listen to it, to put it on the radio, whatever. They don't think about jazz, but when they hear it, it's like it grabs them. And especially, you watch a great musician live on stage, like there's nothing like that, So it is sometimes a matter of just getting it in front of people's ears, so to speak, to let them hear it and then realize that they're connecting to it.
Yeah. And speaking of connecting of shows, are there any shows on your on the radar to look out for in the near future or distant future?
Well, I'll be back at Jax in a couple weeks with a new group I've put together. But we've unfortunately had a couple of things cancel recently. We had some shows booked with James that we were going to do, and Kate Flannery that we're supposed to do a PBS special, and that got postponed now because of people worrying about how. It's not just worrying. I mean, people are getting sick again, and so the calendar's a little lighter than I'd like it to be, but there's some stuff coming up. So, yeah.
Well, we'd like to invite people to make sure they give you a follow, whether it be on Twitter or anywhere else, and even a website. Do you have a website maybe where you'd like to keep people up to date?
TonyGuerrero.com is probably the easiest way, and then you can link to all whatever socials I have there. So. And
that way you can see, because Tony does have a wonderful, and not just one group, but you put together many groups and variety of groups, don't you? To really offer.
It's all part of trying not to get bored with what I do.
Yeah.
I've got a really fun band of guys that we've been together for a lot of years, and it's a tight little ensemble. But I just also love doing other things and doing other styles of music and styles of jazz, and so I do try to keep it a little fresh for myself.
Right on. Well,
you do have multiple talents that you're working in here, so it's pretty cool.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And so, this is great. I mean, kind of wraps up. That's a good way to go ahead and end our show today. I think, we've got, make sure to say hello to all our friends out there on the Discord that are in the chat. Make sure you give us a follow here for our good friend Tony. And, tune in next week next week is when we're going to be releasing these TGs. And I believe there's even going to be a special offer, which you can only find out if you are here next week. So, tune in next week to find out as we release these into the world, into the metaverse, and everywhere for all of us to begin enjoying and supporting this community of jazz, wonderful musicians, and everyone who's out there. So, Tony, thank you for giving us some time this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank
Always
you.
great to get to see you and talk with you a bit, Tony.
You too.
All right. And so, MetaJAX, we are we consider the unrecord label. It makes you and the artist the project owners and beneficiaries. Our music NFTs are unique because you share in the true ownership and rewards with the artist and the performers. MetaJAX becomes less. MetaJAX becomes less as you become greater. So you can become a stakeholder in songs from our new albums like 10-time Grammy Award-winning Arturo Sandoval, Rhythm and Soul. You could also become a stakeholder in Tawanda's album from the Crypto Jazz Festival album. And Tawanda was the 2021 Sarah Vaughan International Jazz Vocal Competition winner. So, and remember that the JAX tokens are only available by staking your silver NFTs. Or holding our exclusive TGs, which are coming up next week. So we have many exciting things coming up in the coming days as being part of the TokenSMART Niftyland, Las Vegas, March 22nd through 25th. So you can also join us there. But keep track of everything that's happening at jaxblast.com and join us every Saturday at 10 a.m. for some live chats here. Also on YouTube, on the Discord, everywhere. We're getting out there, just spreading a good word about what we're doing here in this community. So, thank you very much. Easy, it's good to see you again.
Always a pleasure. Man, what a great show. Tony's amazing, so talented in so many ways. Yeah, just always a pleasure. And make sure you're following along here over at Whale Street and MetaJAX, and keep your eye on those TGs.
That's right. Keep your eyes on them, lady. And in the meantime, keep your eyes and ears on our good friend Miles Jensen, who's going to play us another tune. Miles, take us out.
to touch my cup. You're my sugar. Oh, baby, it's so sweet when you stir it up. Oh, when I'm taking sips from your tasty lips, seems the honey there fairly drips. It's your confection, goodness knows. You're my honey.